Greeting to all. Today we are going to talk about warehouse and its concepts. I am Dr. Arivalagan, Professor of Ahmed Business School. This session we are going to deal about what is warehouse and its own concepts, and this concept is explaining about how you are selecting the site selection, how you are doing the advantage of warehouse and etc. we are going to see. See, basically in India every house is a warehouse and every house having its own supply chain. Warehouse is a part of supply chain, it's not one of the individual components. Look at the scenario. Father is a raw material provider and mother is your manufacturer, and then the family members are consumers. If you look into that, this is one of the supply chain. Supply chain consists of raw material provider, that is what we call it as a supplier, and then manufacturer is a person or an entity which doing the semi-finished goods or complete goods. Once it has been done, then it becomes a product and then it has been transferred to warehouse or it will be directly supplied to the consumer. Let's look into the diagram. So this is your logistic process. If you look at the consumer or the customer, he will first of all, once the customer gives an order, then automatically it goes to the seller. The seller's duty is first collect the order in proper condition and the proper format, because sometimes it will always happen to be certain conditions are applied to the customers. Once it has been done, then it automatically forwarded to the order processing. When it goes to order processing, the order processing concept itself is one of the biggest criteria where lot people are involved in that. The softwares are involved in the order processing. First of all, they will check the customer's identity and whether the given address and etc. is a deliverable. Once the address is deliverable, then they will go for whether the payment has been done, what are the mode, because there are a lot of modes are available for the payment. Number one, you can pay through cards, or number two, you can pay through Paytm. Number three, you can pay as a cash. So what is the mode the customer selected? Accordingly, the charges will be applied. Because if you are going with a credit card or something, then automatically there will be always a discount. But if you are paying a cash or something, then it will be always chargeable. The delivery charge will always take place. Once the order processing has been happened, then automatically it will go to the inventory. So the inventory segment is one of the biggest. This is where the warehouse is the concept occurred. The inventory is nothing but where you are keeping the stock. In the inventory management, you have to keep what kind of level the stock in each warehouse and where it is available, exactly how much quantities are available, how much quantity actually the customer required. Based on that, it will calculate, and if it is already available in the warehouse, then automatically it will go to the traffic management. The traffic management is nothing but the transportation department, where it will be segregate the transportation schedule, when it will be transferred to the customer, what the schedule it is, and what are the ways, because sometimes what will happen, the transportation may cover various places and reach the customer, so automatically gets delayed 1 or 2 days. If the customer needs aggressively or very urgent manner, then automatically it will shift immediately through the available transportation. When it is available transportation, it may be a flight, or it may be a rail, or it may be a seaway, or it may be a road base. So it depends upon the urgency and need of the customer. The transportation department will get the instruction from the traffic department. Based on that, the goods will be transferred to the customer. Once it has been delivered, then automatically the customer will check whether the product comes with a proper package or with the proper order, and whether it has any defects and etc. If any defects, the process will again recycle. That is, again the product will go back or return as a return to the seller. Again it comes to order processing, they will check. So this process. But literally what here is, if the inventory showing that the product is not available in the warehouse, then automatically go to the manufacturing department, where the raw materials will be place. So the raw material is also again the warehouse concept is nothing but it's a place where you are keeping a stock, whether it may be a raw material or it may be a semi-finished goods or it may be a finished goods, whatever it is. So in such a case, the raw material will be supplied to the process planning, where the process planning will always get into the processing unit where the product has been manufactured. Once the product manufactured, then it will be always get into the market or through the warehouse. Again from warehouse to traffic management. So this is a kind of logistics process where the warehouse is one of the components. Let us look into what are the topics we are going to cover in this session. The outline. Number one, already we are talking about the logistics process, a brief introduction. The logistics process is one of the biggest chain of your business entity. It covers entire end to end, that is customer to the manufacturer. Then the definition of warehouse. Then we are talking about the points to be remembered, because it's you have to, whenever you talk about warehouse, certain points you have to concentrate. Then why you need a warehouse, that has to be covered. Then if you are going to select a site for a warehouse, what are the points to be considered, that is another thing. And then what is the functions of warehouse, because the function of warehouse is most important, because any entity, whether it's a manufacturing or anything, they will follow certain procedures and process, then only the operation will be completed in that particular section. So for that you have to have your functions. Then we are talking about the types of warehouse. The types of warehouse, what are the different types of locations are available in different entity, who is owning it and how it functions. So look at this. This is one of the biggest industrial warehouse. If you look into that warehouse, you have equipment to transfer the goods, and at the same time you have the racks and materials accordingly to keep the goods in the placement. See, all these things will have a proper orders. What kind of material we are going to place at the bottom, what kind of materials we have to place in the first row and second row, third row, and etc. According to the need base, all these products have been put in place. So whenever there is a requirement of raw material from the factory, then always the order will be coming to the warehouse based on the requirement and the product lot, based on the product code, and the calculation will be done accordingly. They will go to a particular rack or something, pull the material and supply to the manufacturing unit. And if you look at this, this is a warehouse of Amazon. So if you look at the Amazon, they are not only dealing with a single product. Now the Amazon deals with your grocery to and with the entertainment world. So in this, if you want any edible oil, that will be in a separate rack. If you are going for the electronic goods, that will be in a separate rack. And if you are going to need a pulses or something, that will be in a separate rack. So once the order has been processed, then it will go to the warehouse. They will identify based on the product code and also the quantity. They will identify a particular rack and pull the quantity what you are required. Then it will go back to your storage. So this is another kind of warehouse. It's a refrigeration warehouse where the perishable goods can be kept it over here. It needs a minimum temperature has to be maintained in these warehouses to keep the product in good condition. This is another warehouse where the fishes are kept. See, we know that the seafoods are always need a freezing condition where it should not be contaminable. So in such a case, what kind of temperature you need to put, accordingly the facility to be made in the warehouse. The warehouse, if you're in the normal product like soap, or if you're keeping in the biscuit or something, the normal condition is good enough to keep the goods in the warehouse. But if you go for a perishable goods like vegetable or the fish or meat or something like that, in such a case, all these edible products are to be kept in the warehouse where it has to be refrigerated. The condition of the refrigeration, the temperature, all these things varies according to the product. Look at the definition. Basically, the warehouse, it can be termed as a specific storage area for goods and materials where they are stored safely and handled with care. So it looks like, see, basically it's like a human needs. What is the human base need? Base need is your food, then becomes a shelter. The shelter should always give you a safe. In such a case, the warehouse is also a specific storage area where whatever the goods or materials you are placing it over there, it has to handle with the safe, and also it will be stored safely. That's why I told you it depends upon the material. The specification of the warehouse varies. If it is a perishable goods like vegetables or any kind of the edible things, then you have to keep under certain temperature. If the temperature increases, then automatically the edible goods like fish and etc., if you get higher temperature, automatically it will be contaminated. Generally the vegetables and etc., at the maximum how many days you can keep? Maximum you can keep for 3 days, because once it has been delivered by the farmer, then automatically it will be shipped. For that the shipment it will take around 1 day. See, at the maximum for all these things, at the maximum of only 24 hours you need for a transportation. Within that you have to put a warehouse, then you have to circulate, or it has to be distributed to the retailer in and around area. If you are not doing that, then automatically your product will be get contaminated, the profit will be always in the decreased size. So that is the reason, if you look at the vegetables, what we are getting the Coimbatore market, etc. So there you will get from Vattanchatram or something where the 24 hours lead time for the transportation. If the transportation is more than 24 hours, then reaching the product from that manufacturer end to the warehouse, that itself where the almost 25% of your product will be get damaged. So that we always put down in the brokers. That is why they always prefer 24 hours or less than that. So once it has been placed that, then you have to handle with care. So the materials may be in the form of raw material or finished goods related to any stage of the cycle. The cycle, what it means, that the supply chain, that is what we call as the supply chain. We have already seen it's a part of warehouse. If it is a semi-finished goods, it has to be supplied to some other unit for finishing goods. So that's why in the cycle you have to keep it safe and handle with care. It is also has a set of activities that are involving the receiving, storing of goods and preparing them for the reshipment. Here the concept of storing of goods, that itself we call it as an inventory. The warehouse is nothing but the inventory where you are keeping the stock. That is why the storing of goods and the receiving of goods, that is most important, because always the keeper will take care of when it has been received, what is the product code, how it has been received, what is the condition. All those things will be taken care by him. Similarly, once he ship the goods out of the warehouse, all this condition has to be checked and it has to be recorded properly. Without recording, you cannot receive a material, you cannot send the material from the warehouse. So this is the basic definition. So the warehouse is to be termed as a specific storage area to handle the product safely and with care. What are the basics? That's why I told you, whenever you have any kind of warehouse, you have to concentrate on certain points. The first one is the storage space. See, generally what will happen, whenever you hire a warehouse or you construct a warehouse, you be specific with what is the requirement. The requirement may be, you can plan for 150%, you cannot go for a 200% or something. Because the reason is that whenever you have any warehouse, you have to utilize it efficiently. But in general, if you look at whatever the warehouse, those people are utilizing at the maximum of 75%, the 25% will always waste. These warehouses generally in any area, it will be in the small scale industries, because the reason why they are putting the warehouse in the small scale industry area is because the rent cost will be less, and then the area what you are hiring or you are buying. For example, if you look at say 3000 square feet or 4000 square feet, a warehouse, if you buy it outside of the SIPCOT, it may be cost you around, let's assume it's cost you around 10 lakh. But if you buy the same thing within the SIPCOT, it will be cost you around 80,000 to 1 lakh, not more than that. Because it's a government land and it has been sold to the owners with the cheaper rate. So you have to have the storage area, the warehouse should be in a proper way where it has to be utilized efficiently. The next one, the location of your warehouse where the skilled labor must be easily accessible. See, basically why you need a skilled labor, because if I am going to have a warehouse, I need a computer professional over there. If I need a warehouse where I need a proper security persons, if I need in the warehouse, I need a labor who is reliable and they can attend the duty regularly even in the shift, because the warehouse activity is one of the prime activity for the customer and as well as the manufacturer. The manufacturer will send the product where it has to be received properly with care. When it has been distributed to the customer, where the shipment has to be taken care. So that is why the skilled labor must be easily accessible. So it should be close enough to a city or a residential area where the transportation should be available at any point of time. It should be spacious enough for workers to access the goods easily. That's why when we look into the pictures earlier, like how the industrial warehouse, how your refrigeration warehouse, how it has been for the Amazon, etc. If you look at that, there are space enough to move the people and as well as the equipment to transfer the goods from one end to another. Sometimes the warehouse should always have the electronic controlled equipments, or you can have the electrically controlled equipments also. Sometimes even the lorries and other wagons can move within the warehouse, because it depends upon what kind of goods you are storing, how where it is, and what is the location you are keeping it and where you are keeping it. All these things will be taken care in the warehouse. So the space should be enough for workers to work and also to access the product very easily. Then the transportation cost must be minimal. Why we are talking about the transportation cost? Because nowadays, let's put it to other way around. See, for making a product, if it is like a 1 rupee, for example, even the recent times we are looking into the farmers, there are a lot of farmers have put their tomatoes and etc. on the road and wasted it, because the reason for that is that per kg of tomato is less than 1 rupee. But at the same time, if you look at the tomatoes cost in and around Chennai, it is around 10 rupees. Even the Coimbatore market, it costs you around 7. How come it is? Because the farmers, when they buy from the farmers, it will be hardly 1 rupee or 2 rupee. But when it reaches to the market, it's almost 300% or 400% cost you more. The reason for that is it between how many brokers are transferring the goods, how many people, the mediator people, how many of them are there. For example, when you buy from a farmer, it's one agent where he will put his margin and give a goods to the broker, where he will engage a transport and ship that particular tomatoes and etc. to next location, where again the charges will be added by that broker and again the transportation will take place. So like that, when it reaches a market, the transportation cost alone will be almost 100% to 150% for any product. That is the reason we have to have the transportation cost should be kept minimal. Then only you can sell the product with the minimum damage, with minimum profit, and the maximum benefit will go to the customer. So the transportation cost should be minimal, means you have to locate your warehouse near to the customer. That is more essential. And the asset must be utilized to the highest efficiency. The first point and the second point, the first point and this point reflect same. The first point says the storage space must be used efficiently. Here the asset must be utilized to their highest efficiency. Because why we are talking about the asset, that means that the assets are nothing but what kind of facilities you are provided in the warehouse. That is what the assets. If it's a refrigeration condition, then obviously to keep the minimal temperature, you have to set in the air conditioner, and then you might have without power interruption, you may be having the generator with high cost, and at the same time, if you need any kind of rooms for workers to take rest or do the work for them, you have to make a facilities, all computer facilities for that, the UPS. See, there are a lot of facilities should be provided in the warehouse. Then only you can work efficiently and utilize the warehouse in proper way. So the assets must be utilized at their highest efficiency. For example, if you are having a refrigeration warehouse, you are keeping only 25% of your edible goods like fish and meat. The rest 75% are empty. Then what will happen to your cost? See, the 75% is empty, but still I have to maintain the same facility, same temperature, all these things. So it's waste of cost. So you have to make sure the facility should be have a structure in such a way to utilize it with the highest efficiency. Then order filling time must be minimized. The order filling time is like whenever you receive a product or whenever you ship the product, the order time should be keep minimal, because the time of transportation, see for example, a lorry entered into the compound for shipping your goods or downloading your goods. So in such a case, if you keep a lorry for 2 hours or 4 hours, then imagine the efficiency of a transportation. In such a case, if at all you want to see the traffic, you go to the port, you see how many lorries are standing for a day in days. Because if it is a container, they will stand for almost 36 hours to 48 hours to ship down the container in the port. The reason for that is because it's a government agency, and not only that, the order filling time, the process and the procedure is much complex. That is the reason the order filling time is one of the essential component in the warehouse. Whenever you are receiving a good, then automatically you have to put the orders and etc. well in beforehand into the computer, so that the computer you can put the order properly and receive the goods immediately, and you can organize to ship down that particular product from the container etc. with the crane etc. All those things will be properly arranged. But at the same time, if you want to ship out, again the same thing, the container should not wait for a longer time. You have to arrange a transport, arrange how the people whether you need a people or crane to transfer the goods etc. All those basic arrangements have to be made. Then you call the transport, with a minimal time you can transport it. Then we are talking about the operational cost. See, the operating cost must be reduced, because the reason for that, generally in warehouses, most of the people are having the warehouse, but they are running in loss. The reason for that is operating cost is one of the prime criteria. Operating cost is not only about your facility, not only about your labor, it's not only about your transportation. Put together everything. The asset utilization is the prime factor. Then the facility provided in the warehouse is a prime factor, and then how quick you can reach the customer or reach the manufacturing unit, that is another main factor. So all these things are put together, we call it the operating cost. So these are the basic things you have to consider whenever you concentrate on a warehouse. So why we need a warehouse? That is another criteria. The need of a warehouse is, the first need, it has to provide a basic storage. That's why I told you, in a house, mommy make a food, father may be a supplier, she is manufacturing it, but where is the warehouse? Again, the fridge is the warehouse, where you are keeping the cooked material in the fridge for a longer time, or after buying the vegetables you are keeping it in the fridge. So that is a warehouse. So this kind of warehouse, it has to provide a basic storage with the basic condition. The foremost objective of setting up a warehouse is store the goods and materials safely at a reasonable rate. See, the storage is again comes with your cost. See, everything in business world, everything involves cost. Without cost, you cannot do any kind of value added. So the value means itself is a cost. What kind of service your product? It's not a free. It's again, it involves cost. Similarly, the safety is also involved with the reasonable cost. What kind of safety you want to provide a particular material or a particular product? So whenever you have a warehouse, you have to store the goods and materials safely with the minimum rate. Then providing easy accessibility. The easy accessibility is how quick you are doing with particular product. The accessibility is with the goods, because for example, if I am going to have my manufacturing unit, then the warehouse should be very near to transport the raw material to the manufacturing unit. If I am going to handle with the customer, then the customer should handle the same thing, or the product should reach the customer with the minimal transportation with the minimal time. So it has to provide easy accessibility for storing goods, and the firms means the organization plan their warehouse near the business center. Because the reason for why they are preferring the near to the business center, because if anything happens to their warehouse, then immediately they can attend the problems. If they want to ship for some reason, more product has been manufactured, they want to keep it in a warehouse till it has reached the customer. Again, there you can take care of, the warehouse should be near. It becomes easier for them to store their product, not only for the storing the product but also to distribute to the customer. Then the third reason is providing timely delivery of the product. The timely delivery of the products is nothing but it has to ensure that the product delivered at a proper time to the consumer. There again the handling cost will also involve to accessible in the warehouse. Then once it has been shifted to the shipping department, again the proper packaging has to be done and then it has to reach the customer, where all these facilities should be there in the warehouse. That is why we need a warehouse where it should provide the basic storage, provide easy accessibility and also providing a time delivery of the product. The next one is in the need creating the time utility. Why we need the time utility? The warehouse always reduces the time gap between the storing of goods and the services available at all time. See, the warehouse is just a mediator or intermediate element for between the customer and the manufacturing unit. Once the manufacturing unit finished the product with the semi-finished goods or properly finished goods, that will be stored in the warehouse for timely delivery to the customer or to the end customer. As the supply chain, the raw materials is not, see the raw material provider, again it's a finished product of someone else. I may be a manufacturer of cars, but the screws and bolts and nuts and etc. are the raw material for me, but the screws and the bolts and nuts are the finished goods for someone else. So it's a chain. One supply chain will give connected to the other supply chain. So in between the warehouse plays a vital role. So the time utility should be sufficient enough or it should be minimized to supply the raw material to the next supply chain. Then the minimization of risk is one of the warehouse needs. The risk always in the life, wherever you go, whatever you do, whatever the work you carry out, always the risk will be there, but it has to be taken care. By storing the item in the warehouse near to the business center, the various operation costs, transportation costs can be reduced significantly. As for the warehouse is concerned, the safety is not alone a risky part. Even if you keep the stock for a longer time, then automatically the value of the goods increases. If the transportation distance is very long from a warehouse, then again the transportation cost increases. So this will add a total cost of the product. So automatically the product will be having a risk of selling with higher value. If you are comparing the goods, for example, if you take a TV or something like that, you have the Samsung TV, you have Sony TV, you have, and even you have the minimized like Nexa and etc. There are a lot of companies are coming out to the local market. The 32-inch TV, when you go for a Max or something like that, in that the cost is around only 14,000, 12,000 to 14,000. But if you go for a Sony or something, it will cost you around 24,000. Why the difference is? Number one, quality, yes, but at the same time, where you are having your warehouse, what is the transportation cost, what kind of margin you are giving, and what are the facilities you are giving for the warehouse, how long it has been kept in the warehouse. All those criteria will be taken care in the warehouse needs. So with this warehouse needs, we can have why you need a warehouse and what are the things you have to concentrate while selecting the warehouse. So the warehouse needs will be compared with your basics, both are almost similarly coincide with it. The storage space, skilled labor, spacious enough, transportation cost, assets and order filling, operating cost. All these things are considered when you are considering the warehouse. And the needs is again the same thing like storage, accessibility, delivery, time utility and minimization of risk. With that, this session we will conclude. The next session we will see about how we are selecting the warehouse site selection, what are the function of your warehouse, etc. Thank you.